Hey, it's Phil Ratcliffe, and thanks again for tuning in to our weekly live stream. We got a really special episode for you this week. We've got Molly here with Ambrosia down below, if you can see her, from Canine Companions for Independence. Thanks so much, Molly, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And I'm really interested in this because we have a service dog here all the time, and we want our audience to really get to know what you guys do, you know, what you do for the people that you train dogs for and how they help them. So a little bit about Molly's history. She's the public relations and marketing coordinator for Canine Companions, worked for Disney, animal lover, and now you found kind of the perfect, you know, jive between journalism and marketing and being able to work with what you love, right?
Yeah, I've kind of combined every little thing that I liked and shoved it into one, and here I am, and it's the perfect thing.
It's the dream job, right?
Yes,
so where you can find everything in one thing. So what is Canine Companions, and who do you guys serve?
Yeah, so Canine Companions for Independence is a national nonprofit organization, and we provide assistance dogs to children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities. These dogs master over 40 commands. They do things like turn on and off light switches, pick up items you drop. They can push that little handicapped button on the door to open the door. They can push drawers closed. Really, they're there to enhance independence for the person that they're paired with, and of course, they're there to be their best friend and partner as well. So that's kind of what we do. We've been doing it since 1975, so a good long while that we've been working with these four-legged little heroes.
So you said physical disabilities. Do you train any for mental disabilities at all?
So we do not. So we strictly work with the physical and the task. So these dogs are usually helping somebody who may be in a wheelchair or maybe not be able to bend over and pick something up or open a door. We do also have hearing dogs, so that would work with somebody who is big D, little d deaf, hard of hearing. They would notify them to sounds, so maybe it's a mom and the baby's crying, and so the dog has to let the mom know baby's crying, or the phone's ringing, or the doorbell rings. Yeah. So those are sorts of things that they would notify them of.
So when you say veterans, it would be more the ones with the physical wound, not the ones with PTSD or anything like that.
Veterans. So obviously some of our veterans do have PTSD that may be wounded, but the dogs are not a PTSD dog that's trained to work with their PTSD. They are there to help with the physical tasks.
Okay. So what types of assistant dogs are there? I think you started to hit into it already, but I think most people just think service dog or regular dog. Yeah. And there's differences, right?
It kind of is that way, so they're kind of right. So we have categories. That's, every organization, business has to have their categories. So we have our service dog. So a service dog would go to an adult with a physical disability to help with things like picking up items, opening, closing doors, pulling manual wheelchairs. Then we have our skilled companion, which is pretty much a service dog just with a child or an adult that maybe needs a facilitator there to help care for the needs of the dog. So that would be a skilled companion. So they're pretty similar, just two people versus one person. Then we have our hearing dogs that would, like we talked about, work with somebody who needs them to notify them of sounds. And then we have our facility dogs, which our facility dogs do what a service dog does, but on a larger scale. So we have some, for instance, at Nationwide Children's Hospital that work there with behavioral health and physical therapy. So it's one thing for, your physical therapist or your doctor to say, I need you to, work on your hand motion and pick this up. And you don't want to, but then if you say, okay, if you pick that up, then we'll have Ambrosia pick it up too. And all of a sudden now, okay, I'm going to pick that up. Yeah. So they do what they do, but on a larger scale, and they can touch thousands of people's lives versus just working with one person.
And there's lots of studies that just say just having a dog and being able to pet it reduces stress and cortisol and everything that. And especially in a young person that is sick or trying to fight off something or what, so that could have its own healing effects as well too, right?
It gives you a boost. There's no doubt denying that there's, not only do the dogs provide a task, but they also provide a love and a reassurance. A lot of our service dog teams will talk about, how they have been able to reduce medication now that they have a dog. And, there's two folds to that. One is they don't have to bend over. They don't have to try to do things that would maybe be painful to them. The dog is there to do it, but the dog is also there as a companion, which helps as well. So there's a twofold to these dogs, and that bond between the person that the dog is with or that they're serving if they're a facility dog and the dog is so strong that's why it makes such an impactful team.
Yeah, I personally love dogs, and I think about it, evolutionarily, they were the first animal we domesticated like millions of years ago, and we evolved to be together, and they adapted to us, and so I think there are lots of things that dogs do for us that we were made to kind of be together, at least most people, and then you guys are taking it a step further to not just have that symbiotic relationship, but to where they're a true partner and can actually do more for those people to help them with their disabilities or needs. So I think you talked about it a little bit, but maybe a little bit more specific things. I think when we were talking before, you said there's like 40 things that these dogs can do that are just like base, and you can even train them to do special things. But what do these dogs do for people that you guys train?
Yeah, so by far the biggest thing or the most loved thing, all of it's loved, but the thing that people use and need the dogs for most is retrieving dropped items. Okay. So a lot of our graduates, so that would be the person that has the dog, they could be in a wheelchair, and so when you drop something and it's winter time and you've dropped the keys to your apartment, and you can't pick them up, and so you're sitting there waiting for somebody to walk by while you're outside in the winter to get those keys. Well, now you have a dog that can pick those up for you, and you don't have to sit and wait for an hour or however long it may be for somebody to walk by to help you or risk falling out of your chair or falling down to try to pick that up. So that's a huge thing. Pulling manual wheelchairs. So these guys can pull manual wheelchairs. She's not wearing her pull harness, but there is a harness that they would wear that would allow them to pull, or a vest that has a harness on it to pull.
Does it link to the wheelchair, or does the person hold it?
It does not. Nope, they hold it. So you don't want it to link because, they are extremely well trained, but it is an animal, and you don't want anything to happen and the wheelchair to fall. So it is hold on to and leash and hold on to that that pull vest. Yeah. And then they can open and close doors. So a lot of our graduates will tie, because we tell them to tie a leash or a rope around your doorknob, and so the dog can pull it open for you. Same with your refrigerator. You tie that on your refrigerator.
You just don't want it to click.
And your dog, well, it can click, but the dog can't really grab. If you've got a round knob. Unless they've got
the handles where they can push it with their paw.
And even that can be dangerous to them, if they're doing it. And so, because they use their mouth. They don't use their paws to open doors. So they use their mouth, they hold on, and they pull a door open. And then to push it closed, they push their nose on it, and they push it shut. So to push would be with their nose to close the door. They can turn on and off light switches. So that can be extremely helpful. A lot of light switches may be higher than some people can reach if they're in their chair. Or it's across the room, and they need to go to bed, and they forgot to turn the light off. So they send the dog to go turn off the light switch. But there's 40 commands. So then we work with our graduates on how do you combine all of those commands and do everyday things. So something we do all the time is we purchase things. We go to the grocery store, we go shopping, whatever it may be. We always have to buy something. So one of the first things we work with our teams on is combining a bunch of commands in a transaction. So we'll have the dog get a credit card from a person. So they'd take the credit card or money, whatever you're paying with, from the person, hold it. They'd hop up on a counter, hand the card or up. They wouldn't hop up, just front feet, not 4 feet. Hand that card or money to the cashier. The cashier then will, if there's, if they're giving the card back, the dog will get down, give the card back to the person. Then they'll have the dog get back up, pick up the bag. The person will hand them the bag, they'll get off, and they'll walk out carrying the bag. So
That's
stringing all these 40 commands together to do a task like that. And so our dogs, when we place a dog with a team, we don't just walk away. We don't, give a dog and step out. So we are involved with that team from day one until the dog's retirement, and sometimes even through retirement. Working with them, they're getting recertified, making sure they're staying up on all their commands, that they can still do all the tasks that they've been trained to do. So we're working with them. So if somebody has a need for something and they're kind of wanting to know, well, how do I string what the dog knows together to do something that I need? So, for example, one of our graduates, he had always had to rely on his family to help wrap Christmas presents because he wasn't able to, you know, I struggle. You hold the paper, fold the paper, tape it. You're like doing this number. So we were able to work with him on how to teach the dog to stand on the paper to hold the paper down so that he could wrap the presents. So now him and his dog could wrap the Christmas presents, and Mom didn't have to see what she was getting before Christmas. The surprise was still there for her. So there's all sorts of things that, you know, we work with our teams.
I can almost not tear the wrapping papers. That's amazing that dog can help without tearing the wrapping paper.
I tear it all the time. All the time.
Well, good deal. So just kind of briefly, what qualifies someone to need or get a service dog, maybe in general and then from you? Because I think that that is kind of two different things, because you guys do a lot of what you do for free, which is amazing to me.
So every organization has, different requirements or different interview type process that you would go through. And Assistance Dogs International is kind of the all-encompassing body for assistance dogs. So we were the founding member of Assistance Dogs International, but all assistance dog organizations their dogs have to be held to the standard and be able to perform certain tasks or things that are required to be called an assistance dog. So for us, we service over 60 disabilities. So our graduates have over 60 disabilities. And it really just depends on the person and the person's needs. There's no really strict set formula of this is what would qualify you for a dog.
It's just they have to have a disability that matches up with how you train the dogs.
Exactly. That would match up with a task that they would need. So it is a lengthy interview process, just because we want to be sure that is the best fit, that the dog is going to be able to help the person the best. And that the dog will be a good fit in that situation. So it starts out with an online application. Or if you want to mail an application, a paper application somehow with writing or typing. And then if after looking through that, we feel like, okay, this could be a good fit, we'll do a phone interview. After the phone interview, if we still think this is looking like it's going to be a good fit, we'll do an in-person interview. So a person would travel to a regional training center. And
you guys, your specific one, 14 states,
14 states, yep. So we cover Pittsburgh all the way through the Dakotas, down to Kentucky, and then up to Michigan, Wisconsin, North Dakota.
If you're in Columbus, you don't have to travel very far.
Yes, if you're in Columbus, we're right up the street. But if you're in North Dakota, it's a little more of a trek. So they would come here and do an in-person interview. They would talk with our trainers or our program staff. They would get to work with the dog a little bit. And then after that point, if we feel like, you know what, this is going to be a good fit, this dog is going to be able to enhance independence for this person, then they would go on our wait list. It generally takes about a year, year and a half to get a dog once they're on that wait list. And then they go through 2 weeks of training as a team together, and then they graduate, and they are an official team. And they are out in the world having fun.
Yeah. So how could people that maybe don't qualify for a dog, if they like dogs and want to help, how could they help you guys?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways. So one of our, I won't say popular ways, but everybody loves a puppy.
Yeah.
So we have our puppy raisers. So all of our dogs are bred in Santa Rosa, California. They go to the different region that they are going to be trained in at 8 weeks old. And then they go to a volunteer puppy raiser. And that's somebody who donates pretty much a year and a half of their time to training these dogs. And by training, they teach 30 basic commands. So they're working on socialization. They're working on sit, down, here, heel, side. And they're working with the dogs on that. And so that's a great way to get involved. I know that a lot of people go, well, how do you give the dog back after a year and a half? And it definitely, it's not always the easiest thing, but the reward of knowing that dog is going to go and help somebody, and the selfless act of doing that is really great. So that's kind of the popular way because of puppies. But another is donations. So Ambrosia and all of her other canine companions for independence dogs are valued at $50,000. So that's the breeding, the training, the care of the dog that we provide when they're with us. That's all the follow-up service, both to travel to the graduate, to recertify, to work with them. Also, we rely heavily on donors and partners because we do provide them free of charge. So we do not charge anybody a single penny for these guys. It's our service to the people that we love and want to provide enhanced independence for. So we really rely on donors a lot as well. So those are the two ways. And donors can have fun ways. So we have some fun events. Like here in Columbus, we have Hot Dog Columbus on October 5th, which is a high-end fashion show. So we're having some of Columbus's elite. Are going to be on the runway with their dogs and some of our dogs to raise awareness and support. It's going to be at the Joseph, so that's a fun way. We just had our Dog Fest Walk and Roll in New Albany, but that's a community dog walk that everybody comes out and it raises funds and awareness. So there's other ways besides just donating that you can get involved and help out throughout the year.
I think you wanted to show it what Ambrosia could do as well, right?
let's show you. I'm going to stand up because she's taking a nap down here. Get her attention. Ambrosia, let's go. There you go. Hi, sleepy girl. All righty. Ambrosia, get. That's it. That's it. You got it. Get. You got it. Come on. Come on. That's it. That's it. Ambrosia, hold. Ambrosia, visit. Visit. Good girl. Excellent job. So that would be how she would retrieve something. Now, if I'm in a chair, I'm not going to stand up. But since she's sleeping, we need to get her attention.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go right back to sleeping.
And you even told me that you train them to like get stuff so gently they can pick up a cell phone.
Yep. So they pick up. That's the most common thing. I mean, I drop my phone all the time. That's why OtterBox has done so well. Yeah. So they pick up a cell phone, pick up a piece of paper, credit card. Obviously, there are weight restrictions. She can't go pick up a 50-pound dumbbell because she weighs about 50 pounds herself. But most things that people drop aren't a 50-pound dumbbell. They're your paper or your pen or your pencil or your keys or something like that.
So we put up here a few times how people can get in contact with you, but maybe you just tell people how they can get in contact with you or what's ways to keep in touch.
Yeah, so the best way to reach us is through our website, which is CCI, so C as in canine, C as in canine, I as in independence.org. And you can keep up with everything going on all around the U.S. and here in the region. So if you go to that little locations button right there, if you click it, you can find where we are all around the U.S. So if you want to know what's going on here, you'd go right there to Ohio. You'd click on the North Central Training Center, and here we are.
There you guys are.
So this it kind of keeps up. If you want to know kind of events, some of our larger events we've got going on, you'll find it here. So there's our Dog Fest. Yep, right there. So our next one is going to be in Cleveland. So if you're up in northern Ohio, go there September, Cincinnati, and then Illinois. Hot Dog Chicago is coming up September 14th. So if you're going to be in Chicago, come on out. And then there's Columbus on October 5th.
Yeah, it's got tons of stuff planned.
We do. And these are just our big things. And then all of our volunteer chapters around the region in the U.S., they have their own events. Last night we were out with 97 Won the Fan for Football, Bourbon, and Brews. So we're all around. So definitely. And some of the smaller things that we're involved in are going to be on Facebook, so you can keep up with us on Facebook. If you just search Canine Companions for Independence, you'll find us, and you can keep up with fun. And on Monday is always Puppy Monday, so you can get a cute puppy picture. That's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Puppies are awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ambrosia.
Say thanks. It's hard for her. She is hard, yeah. It's a hard life.
And thank you guys again for spending part of your Friday with us, learning about this great service that Canine Companions for Independence does for all of our Americans with disabilities. Tune in next week. We're going to have Jill Jess in from Ohio, Mid-Ohio Food Bank, and it's going to be another great episode. So have a great weekend, and thanks again.